I think. Leona potentially coming through. But,
I just love it. It just reminds me of you every single
Porky
time.
into the mid lane. I mean, there's one other tanky AP mage that I could see him play, and this is just complete throughout the air. But what about the Cho'Gath? That could fit into his little repertoire.
That is true. And his name's Porky as well, and Cho'Gath increases in size. I do like it thematically as well. Rek'Sai is going to be the first one to hit the bench, though, and Immunity answer with that Nidalee ban. Actually aimed at Jakey here, you have to expect, because banning Nidalee against a team that doesn't actually have Kensti on it is interesting.
And the Maokai ban comes through from Avant, with Porky not being in the top lane. Bad Game Law does prefer, I believe the Gnar and the Jack seem to be the best of his performing champions, so understandable Maokai ban comes through. And as you say, the Nidalee pre-planned ban suddenly looks unnecessary.
Yeah, it seems a little bit strange. Ryu, of course, has played 66% of his games on that Maokai.
I feel like we need to make another point about this, because that's not Shelby in the jungle.
That's true. Of course, I just went over the fact that it was Jakey.
Yep.
But didn't realize that that's not Shelby.
Yeah, the top half of the champ select new here for Avant. In such a clutch week for them, I guess you could say they might be buoyed by the fact that Fornot took a win off Immunity. They do have the easier run-in, but with a different lineup, they can kind of cement, or at least get a first big step into the playoffs with a win against Immunity here. But the lineup's certainly looking different. Top laner in mid, substitute top, and substitute jungler.
Yeah, some very interesting mix-ups to come through. Of course, Ryu hasn't been on the side of Immunity for that long either, so both of these teams with a few shake-ups. Kalista going to be banned away from Uberbro, though. They're not going to want to see that one, but of course his Sivir is still there, and Bad Game Lol now with the opportunity to pick away a champion. And I believe we saw Jakey in the OCS over the last couple of days here, and able to sub through for Avant Garde. And Sejuani has just been seeing a lot of priority today.
Didn't actually find a lot of purchase for that pick, did Zahi in the previous series. It is a takeaway from Zahi, but we definitely didn't see... We saw one massive Glacial Prison in the base, which got a triple kill, which was when Immunity was really starting to get back in the game. But a lot of those, if you looked at the hit rate, or at least the success rate for team fights after a Glacial Prison, it was not high in that previous game. Maybe Jakey can show us something different. We already know health scaling on a champion that now has 25% bonus health with the Cinderhulk item. You can see the synergy. Power farms after the first clear, where it gets very low, but Amumu dies in the jungle apparently during his first clear, so...
Yeah. No, that was all planned. That was all planned. Of course, Fornot won that game. How can you even
My rose-tinted glasses
that
are
it was
very
wrong?
clear. I can see through them with 20/20 vision.
I certainly cannot. I am definitely a little bit phased by that one, but Ryu looking at a potential Morgana here for T-Gun yet again. And T-Gun, some mixed success on that champion, but his Dark Bindings are definitely fantastic. Just hasn't been able to pick up the victories so far, and that's going to be the entire bottom lane, maybe, picked up here for Immunity.
I mean, those two champions together still have good synergy, still have the double spell shield coming through from Sivir, so going to be so safe from the Glacial Prison. And in terms of a bot lane, that was by far the least of Immunity's problems in that last series. Excellent play coming through from the Sivir Morgana combination coming out of Uberbro and T-Gun. Just the team couldn't get it over the line, as I know you appreciate the Poppy Hover.
Yeah, I definitely love the Poppy Hover. There's actually a rogue Poppy around solo queue at the moment.
A Poppy?
A Poppy, yeah. Well, it's I guess.
No explanation necessary.
No explanation needed at all, as it's going to be switched over to a Scion here. And again, a lot of bulk coming through on this blue side lineup, and looking quite frightening. But Immunity, see what they can do in answer to that one, is it's not even going to be the Scion. And I like not picking Scion at this stage, because Trundle is still an option, and he's been buffed. And he is the tank destroyer.
Already been seen in the OCS by Minky, so definitely
well, of course, Minky plays like, what, Jackson Trundle?
Shyvana sometimes.
Oh, and Hecarim. Yeah, he's a huge dragon.
He is a huge dragon.
Yeah, we know that one.
We'll probably have to use that material next time, Alice. Let's just hold down on the Minky discussion.
I just always want to say he's a huge dragon at all times. Immunity, though, looking for the next couple of picks here as the timer is ticking down.
And mid-game central, Fresh and Corky
no Swain ban. And, you know, you can get on the hunt. Soul Shackles happening here as well.
They've had a 100% win rate with that combination. Janna's still available. They could actually recreate a lot of what happens in that comp. Don't have to commit to it. Vice and some nerfs this patch. Has lower movement speed. The Assault and Battery does less damage, but still fulfills her role as just, you know, ulting an AD carry and getting into the middle of the fight. Corky fights from that 550 range, likes to poke from distance. Maybe Immunity going to pick the Super Tank. In fact, yep, Sion's locked in.
Yeah, locking in the Sion here. They have the opportunity to counterpick that mid lane, but it is dangerous when that Trundle is available. That big troll. He's not heartless. He loves beating. And Ari is going to be the
You've got a second life as
well.
a voice actor. You know this, right?
I wasn't even doing the voice. I'm not going. I almost took that.
I'm going to get you in there.
I almost took that bait.
We'll find time. We've got a 3-minute fill still. Don't worry.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Not again. Not again. Hopefully, there's something that we can talk about in that 3-minute break.
We'll see. I'll talk to production.
Yeah. See, get your people to talk to my people. It is going to be the Ari hover here for Porky, though. And
the return.
Oh, my goodness. Bad game, lol. Looking to have another breakout performance on this Jax. His final game with Avant Garde before Porky picked up that top role yet again was on the Jax, and he did manage to take that victory here for Avant. And I like this pickup a lot more. Porky actually showed fantastic mastery over the Lissandra, and we'll see whether he's actually going to stick with that teleport here as well, because he's not very used to using Ignite. Because, of course, the top lane meta, pretty teleport-centric.
He's been around a long time. He probably remembers the top lane Ignite days. I like the Lissandra too because so much wave clear coming through from the mid lane. They don't have a lot of wave clear. Only really Corki who can use his spells and rockets to poke the wave. They needed some hard wave clear. Lissandra practice on this champion, fits in. As I see you pause for a moment and really work out if we're going to see everyone's favorite mid lane assassin.
I'm excited about this because I haven't actually seen Kassadin at work here on the 5.5.
You're not excited about it. It's the same as before, except even more annoying.
Yeah, but it's annoying for a team that I'm not on. So it's exciting.
Don't you feel empathy, though?
Kassadin.
You play AD carry, Atlas. You know what it's like to face a Kassadin.
I don't play it very well. It's very different. I can die to a whole lot of different champions. It's not just Kassadin. My goodness, someone picks a Teemo, I'm dead. But the Kassadin is still being hovered here. A couple of seconds left for Cheese to change his mind. Isn't going to go with the Swain. No, Swain. No, it is going to be the Kassadin lock-in.
I wouldn't have minded the Swain in this particular
Neither.
comp. I don't feel like the Lissandra necessarily can deal with him that well. But we do see the Kassadin lock-in. We're going to learn a bit more about this champion. The Riftwalk now makes it at 500 range from 450 is a significant buff. Now it's longer range than other escapes like Arcane Shift, for example, from Ezreal. It's in a lot of mid-Ezreal plays, so just going to be safer than even an Ezreal in the mid lane. And then the big change, the one that everyone kind of really dislikes, to me at least, the fingers on the chalkboard. Oh. The 2-second Riftwalk at highest level.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. Sort of like eating tinfoil, isn't it? Just makes you feel, even thinking about that.
It's a big buff to Swiffer if you think about it, because he doesn't like to build the Zonias. Now you don't even need a Zonias. Rift in, damage, rift out.
Yeah, rift in, damage. That's awful. Awful thing to deal with, but of course we'll see whether Cheese can do it. But ladies and gentlemen, we did ask you whether you had any questions for us casters here on the OPL desk, and we've got 3 more that we want to read out and answer for you as well. And we haven't actually seen them yet, so I don't even know what these are going to be.
Straight to you, Atlas.
Straight to me. The Sexy Jesus, or Brody, asked me, do you think you could 1v1 a shark? And my answer is it depends on the shark, but most likely yes.
What about a Fizz? He's got a shark.
Yeah, it's an Earth.
Not always.
No, it should be, though. Or a little void monster thing. Get that voice with, like, the extra tones to it. Let's move on to the next question here. And oh, my goodness. Caracolos is with another question, getting in 2 weeks in a row. He's definitely doing some work. How many different skinny ties does Atlas have? And I've actually got 3. That is the answer.
In fact, all our casting team, Pastry Time recently moved to 3 ties. I've always had 3 ties. 3 ties. That's the way to move forward. Take notes, everybody.
Yeah, 3 OPL casters, 3 ties. As soon as Jake Spawn Tiberi gets here for the OPL as well, we're all going to have to go out and buy a new tie. The final question, though, is directed at you, Papa Smithy.
So, AJ Batani here wants to know, what's it like being Aframu's dad? Twitch chat's favorite meme. He earns a good salary. I'm proud of my son, so yeah, no complaints.
Oh, my goodness.
Just in case you don't remember who he is, do you see the resemblance? I mean, what can we say about it?
Actually, kind of do. I kind of do. Have you been hiding something from us?
It's not going to go away, is it?
No. No, in fact, it's only going to... Can we get a hashtag?
No.
Hashtag Afro's dad?
Graphics, that's not how graphics work. We got no hashtag. There's no hashtag.
I think Afro Dad's already been done. So let's do hashtag...
Atlas, next segment.
Hashtag Atlas next segment. That actually may happen. May happen because I do get myself derailed quite effectively. Let's go back to the game then, Papa Afro's dad. As we do have a Poro rider actually in this one as well. So Sejuani being picked up yet again wasn't quite as successful in the hands of Immunity last time, but now Avant going to pick it into them here, and we'll see whether Jakey's performance for the first time here on Avant is going to be a little bit better.
I'm really excited with how this draft developed, specifically because we saw Corki come through. Corki Thresh, very strong mid-game comp. What's the answer? Instant Scion lock-in, of course. Corki's not a very good tank buster, so theoretically you're like, okay, now you deal with the Scion. How are you going to kill it? And you know, there was no champion that Porky plays that really screamed out to you as something to deal with a hyper tank.
Yeah.
But the Jax coming through, Jax going to have a pretty safe lane against the super tank Scion. And in the late game, okay, Corki might not have much fun getting through the Scion, but no one can deal with the champ in late game. Let's be real.
And is Uberbro going to be able to run fast enough with that on the hunt in order to get that Jax out of his face? Because Jax is pretty dang sticky.
Yeah, we do have a pause coming through, so we're going to have to riff a little bit. Will we find any material outlets? We'll find out very shortly.
I don't know.
The viewers can let us know.
I think we can probably find some material. Because there does seem to be some aquatic-themed questions coming through as well. We can go back to the ocean if we want to.
The ocean of questions?
I'm just stuck in Ocean Week, I think, as far as my response to anything is
concerned. It's a long while ago
concerned.
now.
I know. I just loved it. It was so great. Of course, Daniel Ringland being stuck in a shark tank.
Is that Riot Stupendous?
That is Riot Stupendous. He's a wonderful human being. Unfortunately, finds himself stuck with sharks playing League of Legends, though. That guy likes to be adventurous.
He likes to commission Nautili as well.
Commission Nautili. Is that
more than one Nautilus is a Nautili?
I did not know that.
It's not true.
Let's go through all of the champions and see what their plurals would
Let's
be.
go through the lane matchups first, and then if we still have extra fill time, we'll get it in there.
I think Jax would just be Jax, wouldn't it? It'd be sort of like fish.
I don't want to think about two champs. That's too many champs.
Are we talking about chains again?
No,
Is that happening?
There was
one
3
more time?
chains
Okay,
last time.
let's go through the lane matchup. So we've already covered the fact that Jax versus Scion is going to go quite well for Jax. Of course, not going to get pressured out too much.
I say well. I mean, you still need to get some sustain. Maybe even the flask. You might be kind of tricked into picking up the Doran Blade and looking for a bit of play, but especially when the Roar of the Slayers gets leveled up, you take a lot of damage. Yes, I learned that skill name. The Roar of the Slayer. Don't ask me what the Q is. It's Decimating Smash, maybe.
Decimating Smash, yeah, that is it.
Soul Furnace.
Yeah, that's his shield.
Unstoppable Onslaught.
Oh,
Some sort of passive.
I think he has a passive. Yes, you've nailed it. Something to do with Undying stuff. It's not Undying Rage, because I think that's somebody else. But it's just a little bit ridiculous. When he changed...
But a bit of sustain, I think, will be able to go to the lane. In fact, I believe he probably will go down that kind of roster. Then we look at the other lanes. Lissandra in the mid lane going to be wave clearing against Kassadin, but Kassadin, much like that Jax versus Scion matchup, I feel like Kassadin, there's some kill pressure on him, but you know, especially once level 6 is achieved, very hard to gap close onto a Kassadin. So theoretically, should be able to farm up himself. So maybe we'll see the late game hyper carry battle of Jax versus Kassadin. Weird to have 280 carries in the game and not be talking about them as hyper carries. But Corki loves pushing down the turrets in the mid lane. Does good burst damage in the late game. And Sivir, a lot of utility with the ultimate. Not a tank buster necessarily, but because she builds standard 80 carry and has an auto attack reset, she can kind of catch people unawares, but not really Jax, because of course not going to take too much auto attack damage when you just have a very short cooldown on the
counter strike.
On the counter strike, absolutely. So Sivir in the late game probably going to have trouble doing damage against Lissandra, Jax, both champions that really deal well with people in kind of 500 range or less. And the late game, I think it goes to Avant, but we've seen it once before. Bagamlo played an excellent Jax.
Oh, yeah.
He'll need to recreate those days because Scion, he's a very reliable champion. He's always going to get tanky. He's always going to dive the backline. He's always going to just stand around with Frozen Heart and be annoying. Whereas Jax, he has good games, and if the game goes short, sometimes it can be played around that Jax. He can never power up and just not be an impactful pick. So Bad Game Low, back in the lineup, straight onto a hyper carry in the top. I love the faith put in the guy.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, if they can get it all together on the Rift, I think they should take this game.
Well, it's true, and one thing that I want to point towards as well is sort of this Freljord combo coming through into the mid lane as well. If you have a gank coming early from Jakey, because of that Arctic Assault, getting the knockback, getting the very consistent slow that Sejuani has from about level 3, that could be very scary for Cheese. Might have to be blowing flash very early on. Absolutely, and the early gank, but again, you have to remember that Sejuani going to have to back after a first clear. So it's not going to be, I think 4 minutes 30 is about the gank timing after a full clear and a back. So it's still going to be risky, and then the counter gank coming through from Vi, especially, it's only a damage gank, but still could be relevant. It's difficult to knock down a Kassadin, and there's only that short window pre-6.
Having said that, it is a 500 range escape. It is against a lot of lockdown CC because, of course, the Frozen Tomb used aggressively into the Glacial Prison. Yes, I remembered both of those. They have very similar names.
Oh, no. They're both in the same game.
Yep. And you're the play-by-play caster, so if you get it wrong, might be some more questions about that.
Well, as long as they all go down at the same time, even if I'm referring to each one as the other, we're going to be okay. So thank goodness.
Maybe you'll be okay. I'll notice.
Yeah, will you?
I will.
Oh, dang it. Afro's dad. No wonder he's so responsible. You just grew him up so well. The disciplinarian Papa Smithy here. I'm sorry,
just serious
I'll
about
drop it.
skill names. What can I say?
Well, after, I think we're going to need to learn Sion's passive name. That's what we've really got to work on now, because the fact that we didn't have that is just, that's embarrassing, especially for me. I'm very, very sorry. But
a lot on the line from Immunity, especially. If they lose this game, they're not out of playoff contention, but they're effectively out of playoff contention. They'll need so many results to go against the flow. It'll be out of their control. That's the big thing, Atlas. And they need to bring it into their control, choose their own destiny, and win this game.
Yeah, right now, ladies and gentlemen, as we are finally onto the Rift. The pause is over. And Avant Garde are going to be taking on Immunity for our second game of Week 6 here. And we will see how Porky adjusts to the mid lane and how Bad Game Lol's going to head back into this one as the...
Oh, boy.
Ooh, Ryu. I wonder whether he actually spotted 4 members entering that brush.
You'd think there'd be a ping.
Yeah, there wasn't one, though. There's blue pings coming through here as Avant looking to try and pick something up. Red pings did head in there. Ryu, is he going to check this one as Bad Game Law looking to start? Death Sentence lands from Johnny, and Ryu's taking so much damage. First blood goes to Porky. And was that a flat? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Don't worry.
The glory in death that Sion is showing right now is negligible. That's the name of his passive, by the way, Atlas.
You were waiting for the opportune moment. That was beautiful. And that wasn't very much glory.
But Avant re-engage. One thing I want to notice, it's actually off screen, but they re-engage. And you can see on the minimap, they do get a ward onto the Raptor camp. That's what Sions love to do. They love to suicide to the Raptors. Yeah. Use that glory in death to pick up the level 2.
You're loving it now,
they're going to absolutely be spotted out if they do this. And they're going to go for the rival engage. Lissandra's a ranged auto attack. If she just sneaks in an auto, that's going to be kill credit to Lissandra.
Yeah, and we've got Immunity with a lot of deep wards here as well. I mean, they lost the first blood here to Ryu, but managed to spot out exactly where that bottom lane was going. Ryu,
oh, boy.
Oh, he's activated the shield. Porky's coming round, though. Ryu's taking so much damage, and there's only so many times that you'll get away with that little tactic.
But that's the thing. It's not just the damage he's taken. Now he hasn't entered lane. It's the time as well. But unfortunately, Jax had actually not stayed in lane and hadn't controlled the wave, so it's just probably going to buy a teleport out of Ryu. But that's excellent. We don't see that enough in competitive play. Yeah. Get the aggressive ward down and punish the Sion for playing predictably. That's why a lot of Sions have now started moving towards the Wolf camp. It's even harder to try and contest someone at that buff.
Yeah, which camp is he going to be taking now as Porky taking a bit of harass here from Cheese? And the Cassidon rework looking pretty cool here as well, you have to say. I mean, the fact that his visuals have changed, looking fancy. But Cheese always known as being a fantastic Cassidon player. We'll see whether he can demonstrate it here on the new Cassidon.
Absolutely. Against, of course, what would have been the most famous Cassidon player, Kensti, not playing today. Porky playing a lot more aggressive than we usually see him because, of course, he's moved to the mid lane and just trading strongly in this range versus melee matchup.
Well, why wouldn't he be aggressive as he's got an extra Doran's ring as well. Picking up that first blood, extra 400 gold, just chuck another ring on it.
This is another thing you have to consider because, of course, high effective health. The hook does register. Not enough damage to take down T-Gun. But he's going to have to pop quite a few of those potions and maybe be punished for picking up, I believe, 2 mana potions. Maybe even just the 1. But still, not a lot of health regen.
Yeah, not a lot. Is going to be relying on that passive a lot for the spell vamp. As Ryu trying his very best to claw his way back into contention in this lane. Is half of the CS as he tries to destroy that cannon creep, but it dies so far away.
And look, you're ceding a free lane to a Jax. That's never a fun time for Sion. But with the experience advantage back in just about to hit level 4, Sion, he doesn't have a lot of control this way. And you know the reason that Bad Game Low can do this is because it's against a Vi jungle. He's not expecting a lot of jungle pressure to come out from a pre-6 Vi, especially before we see the Unstoppable Onslaught, Assault, and Battery combination come out of Vi and Sion. Then there's kill pressure. But for now, he can push away and build up a nice CS advantage in the top.
Yeah, and it's always scary. I mean, we go back to this every time we see a Jax, and it's like a ticking time bomb as he's going to actually leap strike himself onto Ryu here. Do a lot of damage early on. Of course, Sion not tanky straight out the gate. He needs to have that passive stacking before he gets that extra health and needs to build the flat tank items.
I just completed the thought. The last time we saw Bad Game Low, he was playing Jax in a victory, and it was against Team Immunity. So against Team Immunity, a second time, bringing out the Jax comp, the Immunity. That they had the 5 dragons in that game, Atlas, and couldn't get over the line. As we see in the bottom lane, that's dead.
Yeah, they definitely got over the line with that gank. That was a very different story here as Immunity easily able to destroy Missouri. No taking that dark passage as Johnny now going to try and hold Immunity off this turret.
It's important snowball for Zahi to pick up the kill. With the reduction in damage coming out of the Assault and Battery, getting the Warrior Enchant early, having that available for your first Assault and Battery is so relevant in terms of doing damage on a gank. Might be a big helpful factor in the top lane, as we mentioned, as Bad Game Low happy to be overextending this lane against the Sion.
Yeah, Decimating Smash doing some work here. Of course, Sion still with a whole lot of harassment potential. Just really frustrating. Doesn't do kill pressure damage or anything like that, but it's just annoying.
I mean, the Raw does a lot of damage. Still maxing the Raw. I was thinking some people might move to the Decimating Smash. Max does a lot of damage, but of course requires someone to just sit in the queue for a long time. So much more reliable, much more wave clear coming through with the role of the Slayer Max. And as you mentioned, unfortunately, from Immunity's perspective, Bad Game Low's probably going to get a lot of farm on this Jax.
He is, but I mean, of course, only up by 3 CS here, and Rio doing an admirable job staying in it.
I mean, a lot of the nerfs to Jax were targeted around his laning phase, and the buffs that came in compensation recently were to late game ability, so he still has a hard time laning, as Maz skillfully avoids a Dark Binding and bot. So if he navigates laning, we all know what the champ can be like late game, so even if it's only even or slightly even and slightly ahead, it's still a big win for Jax.
Yeah, well, it's a very good point. Phosphorus Bomb not going to find too much here down on the bottom side. Missouri again on his Corki. Very comfortable on this champion. 3-1 currently in the OPL. As he's going to be able to pick up the cannon creep as Johnny makes his way back. And we haven't mentioned the fact that Johnny's on his Thresh. And Johnny got so far ahead on his Thresh in such a beautiful 100% kill participation game that he built a Sword of the Occult, and it was fine.
It was fine. It might have even been the same game, Atlas. That's just how much craziness that's going on.
My
it
goodness.
Might not be. We might be overreaching with that statistic.
Not sure.
But Johnny's Thresh, as you mentioned, definitely a trademark champion for him. And Maz, despite dying, didn't use any summoner spells in the bottom lane, so can still play quite confidently in this lane, only now getting pushed in by Overthrow.
Yeah, of course, Siva pretty likely to do that as he lands a nice Boomerang Blade here as well. And the Gatling Gun from Missouri just going to try and get these minions to the right amount of health in order to get these last hits. Johnny picking up some souls here at the same time, and this bottom lane is going pretty standard thus far after the early kill. And Missouri not under too much pressure.
But concerns coming through from the mid lane. We already mentioned that, of course, Porky is usually their top lane. Now filling in a mid, he has not been able to exert a lot of pressure despite picking up the early kill, despite starting with the double Door and Blade. He's actually 10 CS behind a Kassadin. Even though this is reworked Kassadin, let me tell you, in the late game, still does a lot of damage.
And I mean, you might talk about the fact that, you know, Porky only recently moved to this mid lane stepping in for Kensty, but Lissandra versus Kassadin is also a top lane matchup.
It is also a top lane matchup. It's a matchup he's practiced upon, but you can't just play top lane style in the mid lane. It's a much shorter lane. There's a lot different mechanics to it. And if you're not used to that transition, it can be a difficult thing coming through for just for Porky. Like, again, the strategies in top lane are all about holding the wave. They're all about the long waves. Like, it's a difficult thing to do. So to move to that situation can be complicated.
Yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, we do have a slight pause, of course. That's why you've got our lovely faces back on the screen. I guess that is, of course, subjective. So whether or not you think that we've got lovely faces is up to you, but we're still here, irrespective of what your opinion actually is. But we'll see if we can get back into this one as soon as possible, as long as this pause does get resolved.
So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I think it's quite considerable, though, that Kassadin's up in CS in this matchup. Yeah. Hasn't been able to be pressured by Jakey. He's just been farming the jungle in Sejuani, which, again, not too surprising.
Pretty standard.
It is a Sejuani jungle. Still is looking for level 6. Had to back. So 8 minutes in, pushing towards level 6. Actually has level 6 now, so the ganking pressure will come through. You worry, though, that Kassadin uncapped will still be the same pressure terror in the late game. Has less range on his on his gap closer, but it's available more often and has slightly lower mana costs, so can potentially be a little bit more spammable. See if the Cheese adjusts his build at all. Will it still be a Zonia's second, or will it be more of a death cap? We'll have to wait and see, but Cassidy not being held down in the laning phase.
Yep, really nice Dark Binder to come through as we head back into the game, ladies and gentlemen. Zui taking a Boomerang Blade there at the same time, but still going to be able to clear out these creeps under the turret. And using that the Gatling gun quite nicely in order to secure the majority of those. But, you know, CS lead in the mid lane, not going to be changing too much, of course, still at that 10 mark. Porky currently picking up that blue buff here for himself, donated by Jakey. His bad game log going to start getting pushed in now from Ryu.
I mean, look, he's still happy. He's hanging back, of course, has to respect Vi in the jungle. Doesn't have aggressive wards towards the Tri-Brush, so just hanging back. Knows the wave will be coming. No incentive to overextend or anything like that. The Bammy Cinder is actually the first pick up from Sion. Going to be working towards a Sunfire cape, you'd have to imagine. Good to see that item. It's a very interesting kind of option you have as top laners. Now, do you pay 1,000 gold for the higher amount of health, or do you go for the 300 health, but of course, the mini Sunfire effect of the Bammy Cinder?
Yeah, and the Bammy Cinder early extra damage in lane here as well, which is definitely going to be helping Sion out. So the build path making that item a little bit nicer to go for.
Yeah, it's unignorable damage. Of course, helps you push the wave as well. I mean, it only goes one way. You might mess up a couple of last hits, which might be unfortunate. But it does help with wave clear. Maybe it'll be the return of Shen, just getting the Sunfire effect.
I was just thinking
the ability to counter push at earlier levels.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, the Poro Rider heading towards this middle lane, and this is what we're expecting might happen. Of course, no wards are going to be down. Cheese finally puts one in, notices that there's one put in response straight away. And Jakey heads back into the jungle here as well. And that skin is utterly adorable. He's going to be heading towards these Krugs. So, bottom lane, not too much going on. The mid lane, no joy to be found by either jungler, as Zahi is hanging around that area as well. And now looking just to clear out some vision. And so far, this early game has been very, very quiet. And do you think that bodes well for Avant?
Well, notice where the waves are. We just mentioned that Sion's pushing in the top. Castan's actually been able to push in the mid, and Sivir just consistently wave clearing the bottom, opens up an objective like Dragon with all the waves pushed. It's going to be an uncontested Dragon despite a cheeky hook coming through from Juni. And that's what happens when you're able to push in multiple waves. It empowers Zahi to look for an aggressive invade, try and counter jungle the Sejuani, or just pick up what proved to be an uncontested Dragon.
And they make use of the fact that they managed to have control over these waves as well. And that was something that, you know, maybe they didn't quite manage to do to full effect against Fornot in the game prior. But immunity definitely looking good. Is Counter-Strike going to come through in this top lane? Ryu taking a lot of damage. There's the decimating smash. Does get the full channel here as well. And Ryu not happy with this Jax just free hitting him. But with that Bilgewater Cutlass, bad game law is probably not going to have to leave lane that often if he doesn't want to.
He's got 1,400 gold, so not enough for a massive purchase just yet.
Probably wants the Phage.
Still going to be probably the Phage, as you mentioned. No, he's actually going to work towards the Blade of the Ruined King. Had most of the money towards it. Didn't feel safe enough to stay in lane. Of course, a lot of kill pressure coming out from the Unstoppable Onslaught and the Assault and Battery combination from Vi and Sion. So probably smart to just go by. Going to work towards Blade of the Ruined King first. Will it be the Trinity Force at all? Maybe just into straight tank. We don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Sort of build it as if it is sort of like a Trundle there in the top lane. MinkUL building a very similar item build path.
Well, I mean, if you look at the health, of course, Rite of Ages, the pickup on Castan, it's going to be a lot of health stacking coming through. Looks like the Phage, so maybe a very aggressive build coming through from Zahi. Johnny clears the ward, doesn't manage to register the death sentence onto T-Gun. 3 members to 2. A lot of fight for vision despite no objective to pick up is interesting to me from Avant.
Yeah, and T-Gun in the end still manages to get his wards down. You can see this river is littered with blue, so Avant know exactly what's going on. Johnny going to make it back to this bottom lane in time to help out Missouri, but does take a boomerang for it. Ubero not happy about that Thresher's presence in the lane, and is going to definitely say something about it. Porky now looking for something, looking to make anything happen here as Jakey has hit level 6, and this is very important. The Tomb/Prison combo is going to be coming through somewhere. They really need to try and make this one happen, but it's going to be so hard against double spell shield. And
look, I mean, Immunity don't have any reason to check these bushes, you have to remember. They don't.
Oh, that's the flash into the Glacial Prison there as well. The flash stuff, Frozen Tomb, and they're making it as hard for me as they can, but Zahi is going to die.
That was a lot of resources used. 2 flashes and no objective to pick up. It's nice to pick up the kill credit, but I don't think it was necessarily useful to do that because it doesn't actually buy Avant anything major.
Yeah, not even going to be able to push out any lanes here as well. As you can see, the wave clear to come down from Immunity has just been fantastic. This is what you mentioned before, and if Immunity keep capitalizing on it, it's not going to be a lot that Avant's going to do, but they do have a Jax. So you can't forget about that as Counter-Strike. He's going to come down here again. He's going to get the stun to Ryu. Takes half of his health here, does Bad Game Laws. That Empower is doing so much work. Bilgewater Cutlass, the flash into the Empower, and he picks up the kill, but is the passive going to be enough from Ryu? Yes. He just sort of gives up, knows that that extra movement speed was going to be enough.
I don't know what to say about that, Atlas, but the result is that Jax falls down to the Scion passive. Does have enough money for the Blade of the Ruined King pickup, so that's a potential coming through from Bad Game Lol, but the counter kill, very important for the Scion in this lane.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm just watching Kassadin's new animations. They look so much smoother. I'd be happy if we just chilled out and watched some Kassadin now. You can see his auto attack. The animation just feels nice. Sorry, I'm just sort of experiencing Kassadin for the first time. It's pleasing.
Experiencing Kassadin for the first time sounds like a horrible thing.
For the first time again, okay? You get it. There's no need to be
sure.
No need to be mean, okay? I'm good at words.
I never need a reason to be mean, Alex. Not to you, anyway.
It's just too easy. But as we look down the lines here as well, of course, this game hit a little bit of a standstill here, waiting for that next dragon to come back off cooldown, no doubt. Off cooldown. Waiting for it to come back up, of course, in another 2 minutes or so, as Infinity Edge is going to be the first buy here for Uberbro. Does have the makings of it, of that flat damage component.
Looks like actually Cheese had to use his flash in the mid lane. Didn't see that was off screen, but flash down, health bar definitely low. So Lissandra, Porky able to exert a bit of pressure in this mid lane.
Yeah, does have his ult on cooldown there, of course, as well. But you can see Cheese, not too worried about it. Uses his flash, heads back, picks up his Sorcerer's Shoes. Does have that Rod of Ages already stacking here by 15 minutes. It's at 3 stacks already, Papa Smithy. So
22 minutes going to be a significant power spike for Cheese. Already level 11, starting to get that cooldown very low on the Rift Walk.
Decimating smash, Bad Game Law taking a little bit of damage from that one. T-Gun's coming around here as well. He's super fast. Does have the Soul Shackles available. Bad Game Lol in a whole host of trouble, as there is just too much CC from this combo in the top lane.
I actually love the fact that Bad Game Lol had picked up the warding totem. Of course, on 5.5, the 5.4 changes come through. Would have had the ward up for an escape, potentially. Just like Lee Sin can leap strike to those wards. But the CC layering was beautiful from T-Gun.
Oh, yeah.
And they pick up their kill. So after the death to the passive and now another death, suddenly kind of derailed on the top lane is Bad Game Lol.
Yeah, he's picked up a Null Magic Mantle, though, probably going towards those Mercury Treads as quickly as possible, trying to nullify this crowd control, and especially the magic damage coming through from this comp as well. Cheese is going to be a big deal. T-Gun actually also, I mean, you can't count out the support Morgana. That Dark Binding, once it hits 5 ranks, does some damage. Immunity
have quite considerable options coming into this next round. They have teleport advantage on Ryu, but he's actually walking down on Sion. Big item timing. So the Bami Cinder wasn't a Sunfire Rush, just picked up that for the health and the wave push. Has a Frozen Heart, Rod of Ages at 5 stack, and Infinity Edge is completed on Uberbro. But on the other side of the Rift, Trinity Force completed. Now a needlessly large rod on top of the Morellonomicon. Jax is walking in. We could see an explosive fight in just a few moments.
Yeah, and Porky with that Frozen Tomb available. Glacial Prison's there as well for Jakey. They have the Wombo to come down. We'll see whether they find it. There's the old beautiful Black Shield, but Zahi gets caught out. The Vi might be dead. Death sends onto Uberbro, though. That is huge. On the hunt spot, Mizui looks to aggressively Valkyrie through as Bad Game Law just hangs out for a moment. And Avant, they might have a free dragon here.
The Cheese did not rotate, so it was 5 members against 4. The Glacial Prison wasn't ideal, but did lock down the fight. No smite available. It will be at minimum a kill, and Ryu overstays a little bit.
That's the Frozen Tomb actually used onto the big tank, but of course doesn't have a lot of magic resist yet. There's the flash over the wall as Jakey's going to help Porky lock down that one. And I'm not sure whether the Glory in Death is going to be all that glorious now as the Frozen Scion falls.
Now, a very small but important interaction came through that showed the experience of Porky in the top lane. After using the Glacial Prison, he walked in front of the escape of Ryu, so the Unstoppable Onslaught went about 10 units, didn't go anywhere on the map. Scion couldn't escape with that ultimate. Great pickup and great play from Avant.
Oh, well, Porky's definitely making a name for himself now in the mid lane here as well, doing Ken Steve proud, unable to quite be here for this game. Uberbro now going to be clearing out some minions here as well, and Immunity might be in trouble. They still have a gold lead, but it's 200 gold. But
it's mostly in Cassidy's pocket. That's perhaps the worrying thing from Avant perspective. 176 CS is a significant amount of CS, and then even another 24 CS advantage in Siva's pocket. They're CSing very, very well. Bottom turret falls. Actually, first turret of the game very late, 18 minutes. And this is a game with Siva and the Sandra, two very strong, very quick wave clearers in the game. Bad game low, able to farm up in top, but doesn't necessarily manage to pick up a big shot in a while. Caston looks like he's going to hit his power spikes a lot earlier than Jax in this game.
Yeah, well, it's true. And Ryu not doing too badly here. Even on farm, does, of course, have that... ooh, cheese. You can see that Rift Walk. That was not how far I was expecting it to go. I promise you that much.
As you said, just 25 units more than the Ezreal Arcane Shift, so definitely a little bit more of a step than a walk as it used to be before, but still far enough. That's for sure.
And the Rift Hurdle.
Rift Hurdle.
Something like that.
I mean, with the lower cooldown, Caston would be excellent at hurdles.
He would. He'd be brilliant. And of course, you don't need to jump that high, so he doesn't need to be too worried about the fact that it was nerfed there.
Have we just come up with our first Papa Smithy Atlas skin idea? Hurdling Cassidon.
Oh my goodness.
It sounds amazing.
That is incredible.
We're waiting for the Olympics.
Yep.
Right, please.
Yep, that's going to happen. That is going to happen. Oh, damn it. Maybe it can't happen. Yeah, our producer in my ear just then talking about our world-class hurdler, and I can't remember.
Oceanic skin?
Oh, I don't know. I think
There's the glare. No promises, anybody.
We're coming up with skin ideas on the fly. Things are getting a little bit difficult here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Bad Game Law going to continue to farm in the top lane. We've got a big group of Avant members actually heading towards this top side. We'll see whether Johnny's actually wanting to go for a death sentence in the actual sense, as Rhea's going to take a combo from Bad Game Law.
So definitely roaming the map here. The supports come in. The red buff is available. They don't have vision of it just yet as the pushing continues in top. I feel like we're in a lull before a lot of action comes through Atlas.
Yeah, Ryu does have that unstoppable onslaught available. Ryu's actually face-checking Bad Game Law on purpose there. Don't really want to be fighting this Blade of the Ruin King Jax, despite the fact that you have a Frozen Heart. Which is confusing, because he's got a Frozen Heart and a Mummy Cinder, so they must be counteracting each other just a little bit. Isn't his Frozen Heart going to get melted? But here's the fight. Unstoppable Onslaught. He's going to find Johnny here as Avant. Try to make something happen. Frozen Tomb working out, but Cassidy picking up his first kill of the game. Now can come back in with another Rift Walk. But Mazui, a double kill already. Ryu's getting focused down. He's going to have to get out of this fight. And as soon as the Scion's getting focused, you know that things have gone wrong.
But 2 for 2 is the trade. 2 flashing health bars on the side of Immunity, and Bad Game Law was hardly involved in that fight. Avant playing around their power spikes. Trinity Force, Sorcerer shoots Corki. Should be the second outer turret. Might rotate to top and get the third. Avant, they're definitely in a power spike, despite the fact Cheese already doing a lot of damage. Now has the Abyssal Scepter. 10 stack Rod of Ages a minute away. Power spikes across the map, and who can use theirs better may decide whether we do see the late game Jax come through, or if this game is taken away from Avant in the mid game.
Yeah, and Immunity seem to be playing as if they think that they have this late game in the bag as well. They've got this sort of playstyle that's conceding dragons, not worrying too much about what's going on. And is that really how they should be thinking about this?
I don't think so. I mean, the late game is pretty comparable. I feel like Caston, with the really short cooldown Riftwalk, can do some very interesting things, but I mean, mostly is untested in competitive play at the highest level. So maybe we'll have a learning exercise when it comes to that champion come through. Jax hasn't shopped in a long time, sitting on 2,200 gold, but continuing the split push in bottom. The next purchase could be towards a Trinity Force, could just be the Sorcerer, sorry, the Mercury treads into perhaps the Randuins. I feel like the next shop from Jax should give us a lot of information on the mid game.
Yeah, Porky actually does manage to get the ult out here of Uberbro, but it's a beautiful spell shield. And Uberbro should be able to take this tower here as well. Ooh, Glacial Path to come through. Porky looking for an ultimate, but doesn't find it. Of course, with that spell shield on cooldown, not sure why he didn't go for that. Ignite was up.
Don't know if he had quite enough burst to go straight down from 4 and then had to be worried, because if he just misjudged by 100 health, Siva would have got the answering kill with all the attack damage completed between the Infinity Edge and Zeal. So it was a risky situation. He's a makeshift mid laner, of course, known to known to the top, so maybe he has more AP than he's used to at this stage in the game. The result is everyone backs away.
Yeah, potentially, but...
Wow, look at that pickup from the Jax at Warmogs.
Warmog straight out. That's a lot of health. Descend's onto Cheese, though. He's going to use that Rift Hurdle to get himself to safety, but Zahi comes through. Beautiful Vault Breaker. Johnny takes a while to die, but I feel like he's going to. Ryu picks up that one. Assault and Battery for the slam dunk on Mazui. And Immunity just destroy the bottom lane of Avant.
T-Gun, Secret Agent T-Gun, 004, so on point with the Dark Bindings. Gets another important pick as we sit into a pause once again. We're so close, Atlas. 7-7 is the score. About 1,300 gold is the lead for Immunity, but we already say that it looks like Jax might be able to take this game in the late game for Avant. Just mentioning that Warmog's pickup, we wondered if it was going to be Blade the Ruin King into tanky. The Warmog's kind of answers that, at least in the short term, a massive health stack, 800 health, against a mixed damage team should be a lot of effective tankiness in the mid game.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of sort of percent health shred coming through. There's no one that's going to be building a Blade of the Ruin King. They don't have a Leandry's user, and they don't have anyone with sort of natural percent health damage, do they, looking down the lineup?
No, they don't, but I mean, the one worry would be before the Randuins is completed, or at least some armor is picked up, if we do see an auto attack, like a crit auto attack into a ricochet auto attack, could be a massive burst of damage. That could be doing 600-700 damage and be effectively negating the Warmogs coming through from Sivir. Sivir's very unique. No other AD carry has an auto attack reset, so there is the potential. I mean, RNG has to be smiling in your favor on the day, but there is a potential for burst damage to answer the Warmogs. But as you mentioned, don't fit Blade of the Ruin King into a Sivir build. So with no Blade of the Ruin King builders, Randuin's coming in next especially, could be very strong Jax, and so sticky, of course, and the consistent damage. He has that just from his abilities and the Blade of the Ruin King.
Yeah, and does this Warmog sort of mean that this Jax is going to be maybe more of a team fight focused Jax, not going to go for that Trinity Force for the extra amount of split push potential?
You'd expect so. I mean, with the pickup, that's what he's suggesting, but doesn't necessarily pigeonhole himself. Could still be a Phage pickup coming in next, and just wanting a bit of health to navigate the high damage AP threats in a team fight.
Yeah, Rio is actually going to teleport away from this dragon. Of course, Immunity able to secure that one very easily, even with Cheese doing a whole lot of damage to Porky. He loses half of his health from one Rift Walk as Bad Game Lol just going to step away from the decimating smash, and Rio going to have to be careful because this Jax is pretty mad.
Jax is definitely mad. Now, the damage coming through from Sion, noticeable in the laning phase with the low base stats of Jax. Very much ignorable now, but T-Gun, he's there to help.
Yeah, Dark Binding doesn't find its mark here as well as the exhaust comes through, gets the stun though. T-Gun has to be careful. He gets ran out. Cheese is here at the same time though. They know they need to bring multiple members, and T-Gun locks down the Jax, and he's just pretty annoyed by the fact that there's three.
You could see a lot about Jax, though. He decided to turn the two. He's like, all right, I can deal with these two people. I've got the Warmogs to ignore the damage coming through from Morgana and Sion. It actually was very necessary that Cassidy was there to clean up the fight as Ivana here.
T-Gun. There's the Glacial Path to come through as well. Doesn't land the Q damage, ults himself, and does have the Zhonya's available as well, but dies before he can use it. Cheese now doing a whole lot of AoE. Dark Binding gonna find Jakey as Zahi comes through, picks up the Vault Breaker kill, and forces another flash out. Immunity gonna be able to pick up this turret, and they win the fight.
Cassin misses for a patch, and suddenly people forget just how much consistent damage and gap close this champion has. The 500, the 200 range nerf to the ultimate doesn't negate any of the burst that comes through from this champion. And you could see doing so much work in that little engage.
Yeah, Cheese has always been a devastating Kassadin player anyway. It seems like any champion that you can build both a Zhonya's and a Rod of Ages on, he's pretty fantastic at. But Zahi, he's found Mazui, the ult through here as well, but Zahi taking so much damage. Cheese picks up the kill. Bad Game Lol looks for the leap strike to try and get him closer, but now it's going to be on cooldown, and the Force Pulse going to stop the assault.
Yeah, and the jungle for AD carry trade is definitely an Immunity's advantage. I want to see some cooldown reduction coming through from this build for Bad Game Lol. I feel like Frozen Heart is an excellent item on Jax because with the buffs to Counter-Strike cooldown in later levels, you can have 60, 50, I think about 50 or 40% uptime on being untargetable, which is a massive thing for Jax. Without the cooldown reduction, of course, doesn't have the second gap close and doesn't have Phage or the Trinity Force for the Rage passive and mobility. He has Warmogs. He's tanky, but he needs people to be fighting him in melee range, and no one's going to be looking to do that on IM.
Yeah, well, it's true. And Uberbro, though, he's picked up the big crit components of his build. He's got the Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer. That's close to 50% critical strike chance. And Bad Game Lol with no armor Is he just going to melt to this Sivir now?
He's going to take a lot of damage, absolutely, as Johnny might be dead.
Yeah, he might be dead. There's the Soul Shackles, but still manages to get the stun after the flash. T-Gun's Morgana. Doesn't have the highest win rate in the OPL, but it's still impressive.
Absolutely, and it wasn't a core tenet of their problems in their first game today. Looking great this game. 9 out of 12 kill participation, 1-0-8. A very respectable score coming out from support. Immunity looking good, and I think I agree with you. I feel like this Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer Sivir is going to be doing remarkable damage in fights, and we need Porky or Bad Game Law to get the stun, get the wombo onto him, because consistently over a fight, if he's fighting in the back line, and he's got a Scion in the front line, which is going to last a long time, so he should be able to spend most of the fight in the back line behind his tanks. Consistent damage is going to be huge.
Well, that's not even talking about Cheese as far as that consistent damage in that sentence. And Immunity, I mean, if you're talking about consistent damage, definitely a thing that they have locked down here. They are going to be able to clear out this ward in the top side as well, and Bad Game Law going to continue to be blind and might get focused out yet again. And if a Jax can't split push, you might have a bit of a problem.
In a fight, if he just ends up being kited from lack of mobility from the Rage passive and the Trinity Force, again, won't be doing too much in a fight. So I remain to be convinced by the Blade of the Ruin King into tanky build that he's putting out. And in the bottom lane, we see Maz trying to deal with Cheese's split push. Cheese is building towards a death cap third. That's what we're saying. With the change, with Riftwalk being 2-second cooldown, before we even talk about blue buffs or any cooldown reduction from either runes or masteries, you can go for that greedier build. Just register that burst and then just be able to Riftwalk away.
Yeah, Rift walking away, most definitely. And we'll see whether he's going to be able to finish off that Rabbidan's death cap here at the same time, as 5,000 gold lead has crept up here for Immunity. Those last few skirmishes really working out in their favor, and that's a Kassadin with a hat now, and he's going to be doing so much damage.
And we still haven't seen the third outer turret be broken by Avant, despite the fact they rotated well with the Trinity Force. They won a team fight in mid. They've never managed to get Corki to the top lane. In fact, it's been a lot of ganks coming out from Zahi and the members of the team. I mean, T-Gun's been top lane a couple of times and visited top lane for kills. And Avant, they need to start breaking turrets, otherwise you negate the whole reason for picking a Corki, the mid-game turret pressure.
Yeah, well, the mid-game's almost over here. It's 29 minutes into this one. We're getting towards the later stages of this game where team fights are going to be ruling everything. They haven't made use of that Trinity Force. They haven't made use of the flat damage and shield coming through from the Bloodthirster because they haven't been able to.
Speaking of Trinity Force, look at this.
Yeah,
Vi has completed a Trinity Force. Trinity Force and Jungles had a very high win rate in the OPL. A lot of Rek'Sai doing crazy things with that item. A lot of burst damage coming through. A risky build, but to be honest, it's actually looking like quite a low damage comp coming through from Avant, despite having Jax, Lissandra, and Corki.
Yeah, well, Jax picking up that Warmogs before finishing the Trinity Force now has the Phage. Of course, is going to be useful on its own for that Rage passive, giving him that extra movement speed on hit so he can be a little bit more sticky, but Zahi almost has a Randuin's as well. Death Sentence is going to break the Banshee's Veil. Ryu takes this as a sign to engage, though, as the Frozen Tomb comes down. Porky, he's getting deleted. He's going to use that on his Hourglass, but can't follow his path. He might actually get taken out of this fight, but Zahi's actually getting exploded because, of course, that Trinity Force, not a whole lot of defensive statistics, is going to survive. Cheese coming through. He gets destroyed in the middle of Avant Garde, and the Kassadin's dead, but so's Jakey.
Avant Garde did a great job of kiting backwards during the whole engage. Dark Binding comes onto Maz. He'll take a burst of damage, but not die. Avant, it looked like they made a big mistake using all their cooldowns onto Ryu, but that allowed them to kite backwards, fight around Maz, consistent damage around, took down the Kassadin, who had a big bounty on his head, of course, was 4-0 at the time.
Yeah.
Now Avant played that smart, but they need to continue to watch their engagements. If they use all their cooldowns onto this Scion, level 15, soon to be level 16, Kassadin will run all over their team.
Well, that's the thing. And of course, Scion with a whole lot of scaling. Actually, I am going to find Bad Game Law here. Mizui actually takes down the dragon. Bad Game Law sacrifices himself to that one, to the dragon gods. But they do pick up the dragon.
It was a very risky dragon. No smite available from either team as Zahi just finally came back from spawn after that fight ended. It's very close, Atlas, but 4,500 gold lead is a considerable one for Immunity.
Yeah, that's even on dragons at this stage, though. So Immunity probably looking to pick up that third at the soonest opportunity. But the timer on the 5th dragon on this game is going to be coming in very late.
Now, you see Zahi stealing away the blue buff. Has to smite it, can't donate it to Cheese. But that's another resource denied from Porky and Avant as they start to clear some wards. They're behind in buffs, they're behind in gold. Dragons, as you mentioned, all even. And if they fight smartly, you can see Avant have a good chance. They do at least have a very tanky front line, whether it's Jakey or Bad Game Lol in the front. He's working towards Oceania's, so he's working towards a Trinity Force, has the amplifying tome. Probably would have gone for the Sapphire Crystal, so AP doesn't offer that much to Jax, but obviously going to be a Sheen all the same.
I actually prefer to build Gunblade on Jax rather than Blade of the Ruined King. I think that AP is a fantastic stat.
I think back when it gave about 60 AD and 80 AP, I would agree with you. At this present point, not really necessary a pickup. The AP ratios are fine. I know Spawn is watching at home and telling me about his AP Jax.
It is the reason why I had to mention it.
But I feel like just a bit more gap close and a bit more using of spells, a little bit more important than 8-9 damage from the Amp Tome.
Does give him some more magic resist from his ultimate as well.
You're reaching now, Atlas.
Yeah, I certainly am, but still, that's a thing that happens. Turret yet to go down in this top side, though, for Avant Garde, despite there being a Jax that loves to thwack on turrets. You know, you think that he might be able to do something to it now, but Ryu just able to clear away the minions, and Bad Game Lol unable to tank this turret because, of course, doesn't have any armor, not really wanting to tank things up as Missouri might get caught in this red pit, does take the Dark Passage, and Jakey going to just give Missouri a Dark Binding, but Immunity not going to find too much joy hanging around this jungle. They are going to be able to kill a ward, but that'll be it.
Very interesting. A second BF sword item being completed by Maz. Usually I'm all for this build. I love Trinity Force into Bloodthirster and then building an Infinity Edge, but look at all the armor already picked up by the front line. As Corki, a champion who struggles to get damage into the backline, has a lot of AoE spells that really get absorbed by tanks. I feel like he's going to be spending most of the fight dealing with the Assault and Battery coming through from Zahi and just Sion in general walking in the front. Already a lot of armor stacks coming through from Sion and Vi. No Last Whisper. Not the best tank buster to begin with is Corki, but going for that extra BF sword is some decent poke, but in a team fight, going to be doing very ignorable damage.
Yeah, and speaking of team fights, on the other side of the rift, Uberbros finished his Last Whisper. He has his trinity of AD carry items that he wants to destroy any tanky members. Jakey, he's going to be getting in amongst it. He does have a cloth armor as far as armor is concerned, and is going to be scaling up with that, of course, at this stage of the game, but Uberbros just going to be decimating people in these fights.
I mean, that's if he can get auto attacks off as a 500 range auto attack focused champion. I'm not convinced that he can between Jax, between Sejuani, and then of course Lissandra and Thresh. They have a lot of ways to deal with a short range AD carry, but yes, in a scenario where he has a strong tank frontline peeling for him, he'll be doing a lot of damage. As Kassadin wants to come kill this Jax.
Yeah, Cheese at half health here, but Bad Game Lol is definitely at lower at this stage as Cheese looking to try and Rift Walk away. The speed coming through from that Phage is doing a lot of work here. There's the ulti coming through from Jakey. Cheese, he's getting slowed down to high heaven. Does have a whole lot of health left, but he's going to be able to get away. That Rift Walk also available as T-Gun. He's looking to make something happen, actually defending the Kassadin here as Avant Garde unable to find anything, but Bad Game Lol did survive.
That time for once did have the cavalry coming through, so did not fall down. Bad Game Lol lived through that engage. Very tanky, but again, the damage not necessarily there. But you can see the mindset. Once that Trinity Force is complete, the random aggression in 1v2s will become very calculated aggression.
Yeah, Missouri actually going very aggressive here onto two members here in the top side. He's completely on his own, no cavalry arriving for immunity as well, but Missouri probably not going to be able to siege that one out, but he has the right idea. He's heading towards turrets to shoot down.
Absolutely, and he's got plenty of AD to take down structures, let alone the Trinity Force. They still haven't got that third outer turret, but to their credit, haven't offered any more turrets to immunity. We haven't seen much of a split push. In fact, Vi is the person that's been chosen to split push in the bottom lane. Don't have split push quite fast, because does have decent AoE coming through from the excessive force, you know, with the AoE coming through from that ability. We'll back away. He's gone for a carry build, so kind of needs to pick up farm where he can to get tank. He only has a Randuin's at the moment in terms of tank items.
Yeah, going towards probably that Spectre's Cowl into either a Banshee's Veil or the Silly Visage, but probably a Banshee's Veil, you'd say. Not going to be benefiting too much from the extra regen. Jakey, Raptor buff going to come through here. Vault Breaker from Zahi looking for it. There's the Dark Binding. Beautiful layering of CC to get rid of the Banshee's Veil. It's not able to take the dark Passage. And Cheese locks down the kill. Beautiful play from Immunity. That was so well done.
And that will be a third dragon coming through, but Jax should be able to answer it with a turret. In fact, thwacking away will guarantee the turret. Third dragon for a turret, not necessarily the best trade, but it will be Infinity Edge soon. They can't give away any more kills, but Trinity Force coming through for the Jax and that outer turret. It's a big item timing for Jax, so I don't mind it as a trade. Not ideal. They didn't have a choice about it in the end, but they'll accept the trade.
Actually, Bad Game Lol's not done yet either, as the Rift Scuttle is going to go down here for Immunity, but sending Ryu up to that
Never want to
top
leave
side.
Jax against the turret.
That is true. Zahi and Ubero, they are going to be able to secure this third dragon for Immunity. The inner turret's going to fall down, though, because, of course, this Jax is doing some serious work to structures.
2 turrets for that one kill and a dragon. Avant win that trade. And again, a massive buy coming through. 1760 gold, needs about 800 for the Trinity Force completion, and then Jax can work into even more tank items. I feel like if he goes back and shops for a Trinity Force and then, say, a Warden's Mail, he's going to be team fight ready. Yeah,
it's going to be very, very scary coming out of this Jax. And that Trinity Force, the extra movement speed coming through as well from the Zeal portion.
And that's the exact buy. He's feeling good.
Punch my fist. That was beautiful. We did a bit of a fist bump, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't see it, but
I felt
we
it,
did,
though.
because I was very, very proud of Papa Smithy knowing exactly what was coming through. But that is a very scary Jax. I mean, going back to the actual point, that was brilliant.
Trinity Force, Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge is completed on Maz. It's a greedy build. It's a nice bit of burst damage, especially on someone who's not a high armor target. They're going to struggle to get through the front line, but the enemy team's going to struggle to get through Jax. So it's going to be the job of front line. Sion definitely gets the tankiness advantage. Jax definitely gets the damage advantage. It's going to be a close team fight. I'm really excited to see how the Cassin is played in a team fight, because not interested in Zhonya's as Cheese. Just going straight for damage. Wait for this burst of damage.
Yeah, he's looking for Bad Game Lol here as well as Cheese comes through. He's just trying to stand out the back of this fight. You can see able to use that Rift Walk at all times. Bad Game Lol gets ulted, and Cheese picks up yet another kill. 6-1 and 5 on the new Cassidon. And Johnny actually gets caught out here in the mid lane. Dark Binding going to come through as Ryu just picks it up with a Soul Furnace. Easy as you like. And there's the Unstoppable Onslaught looking for Porky. Doesn't find it. The classic Sion issue coming through yet again as Missouri now trying to do some damage in the back line. But you're not going to be able to touch that Sion with too much. And they're going to have to back away.
They just don't have a lot of answers to the split push coming through now. Of course, with just the 3 members, they're starting to try and pressure the Cassidon, but Immunity moving forward. They want this outer turret. It'll be their 4th, equalizing global objectives, but actually having 6k gold advantage in the bank. Everyone needs to be careful in Avant, because another pit coming through. It's still 10 seconds. It will be an inhibitor.
Oh, Missouri takes so much damage from that burst as Ryu gets the knock up. The flash into the Vault Breaker. Porky takes so much. The Zhonya's is there, though. Frozen Tomb comes down. Zahi falls as Ryu trying to stand in the front of this one. Jakey gets caught down, and Avant looking to turn this one, but Immunity just too strong, and they swap the members that were dead and alive. And Ryu, he might fall, but he's going to be glorious afterwards for only a very small amount of time.
I mean, quite a long time. It's very tanky, but does fall down. A lot of advantages got by IM, but importantly for Avant, they did not break the base. No inhibitor turret coming down. A massive amount of minions in the top lane. Jax should be able to go answer that. Going to be working towards more armor. It looks like it will be the Frozen Heart, given the next Koth armor coming through. The cooldown reduction can be so important in the late game, just to be able to use 2, 3 rotations of the Counter-Strike in fights. Hopefully, for Avant's sake, we'll be able to deal with the Sivir if he's able to pick up that cooldown reduction. These fights are close, but the picks coming through from Immunity have been massive in forcing objectives.
Well, it's true, and if Cheese and Zahi continue this gank squad that they've got formed, you've seen how difficult it is to get away from them. The Assault and Battery, the Vault Breaker, the Rift Walk coming up every 2 seconds, which is just silly.
The Assault and Battery is targeted, but they've got the Sivir ultimate. They've got Morgana riding in there with the Soul Shackles. Cassidon gap closes like it's going out of fashion. They've got a lot of options for picks, and Avant, they need to get more wards on the map. They've been good with the pinks. You can see they have some excellent defensive pinks around their Raptors, around the blue buff, one towards the top of the Baron buff. But they need to get more green wards on the map and just try and get a bit more vision, because the picks, they will be the undoing of Avant.
Oh, speaking of which, the Frozen Tomb to come through, but Zahi doesn't take any damage. Porky in no man's land at this stage, just watches his own death as now Ryu able to get so much CC up. Johnny with a nice position of the box, and Uberbro taking a lot of damage. Bad Game Law in that backside. Jakey gets the 3-man ult, the double kill for Bad Game Law now, but finally falls down. Ryu is most definitely not dying, has the Guardian Angel here at the same time. It's a lovely play, but Ryu still in amongst it. Misui does have a lot of consistent damage, but Cheese is here as well. Jakey gets rift walked on over the wall as Ryu finally gets to the point where he might be near popping the Guardian Angel as Cheese, with all of the damage in the world, Dark Binding doesn't find the target, but he picks up Johnny, and New Cassidon's crazy.
New Cassidon does a lot of consistent damage. He always did, but you know who's not doing damage? It's the Corki. Completely ignored by 3 members of Avant, tickling Ryu, especially in the front line. Not that surprising when you're talking about a 256 armor Scion against a Corki with that Last Whisper. But that Last Whisper, it's still 2,300 gold away, and it is so necessary because they have burst damage coming out from Porky. Remember, Sivir died very early in that fight, just respawning now. Bad Game Law doing decent, consistent damage, but they need Maz to also be helping out, and he just can't do that with the build. It's an expensive build he's bought. He definitely could have fit in a Last Whisper earlier.
Yeah, doesn't quite have that available just yet, and the QSS is going to be useful, I guess, but it's only really for a Dark Binding or something like that. Not very much else that he can actually use it on. Of course, Assault and Battery, Unstoppable Onslaught, if you get hit by those, you're going to get hit by them. You're not going to be able to do anything to get rid of it. Cheese. He's going to find Misui here in the river. Bit of a face-off over that Scuttlebug as T-Gun's going to throw out a Dark Binding, and Misui going to have to forego positioning. And 10 seconds on the 4th Dragon here for Immunity. 42 minutes into this game. 48 minutes potential 5th Dragon if Immunity take it now in Avant. They know that they don't want to let that happen. Looking to try and get something started, but there's on the 100 spin pop. Misui gets caught out by Zahi, who's so tanky in this front line. Immunity getting melted by that Frozen Tomb as Porky gets a whole lot of damage off Johnny and Avant. The rest of them, the death sentence to come down from Johnny onto Cheese, and they get rid of the Cassidon. Ryu now trying to be just a tanky force in the front line, but no one to peel for. Triple kill coming through for Porky. He's low in health. Is he going to be able to pick this one up? Not in the next sort of 25 seconds.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, it takes a lot of killing. I'm struggling to stay that excited for this long just because look at how long it takes him to die.
He's back.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, he's alive again. Running at him. Okay, we get it. We get it. Bad Game Law did fall down there, but beautiful fight.
The death sentence from Johnny won them the fight on Cheese. That's the big point. It was actually a very early Zhonya's coming through from Cassidon. Was still at near full health. Didn't have anyone diving with him, so actually didn't really buy time. It just bought time for skill shots to be exactly hit. 3rd Dragon matches the game. It's so even this game, Atlas, as Maz really wants to pick up the blue buff. Vi takes it away.
Yeah, Misui not going to be able to get there in time. Doesn't have a whole lot of mana. Would have really liked a blue buff, so probably will sort of write to Zahi afterwards and ask him whether he can refrain from doing that one in the future. It was a little bit inconvenient. Frozen Heart completed by Bad Game Law. He has a Negatron Cloak, and I was thinking about whether he was going to go for, the likes of a Banshee's Veil, but it looks like the Guardian Angel. What do you think? I
mean, the Guardian Angel's just fine. Again, it allows him to be a frontline threat. Bad Game Law's been diving the back and dying. He's just taking a long time to do it, and he's doing a lot of damage in answers. So he's basically fulfilling the same role as Scion, but a bit high on the damage value. So having the QSS gives him a mini Scion passive, you have to say. Yeah. Doesn't give kill credit as early, but that's all he's trying to do is buy time for his team to fight around the back, and that will be oh so much more valuable when the Last Whisper is complete. That's the big item. It's a weird thing to say because we almost never talk about Corki finishing a Last Whisper as a critical item buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually it's like, why did he rush it? Why was it an early pick? As we see the pick coming in T-Gun, they do back away. Usually Last Whisper was bought too early on Corki players. It's actually necessary here because we see insane armor values coming from the front line of Immunity.
Yeah, completely ridiculous. And Scion is probably one of the champions that can build armor the easiest. Glacial Path actually going to be used by Porky very defensively. And Avant definitely respecting Immunity's engage potential as Bad Game Law caught by a bit of a binding, but not too worried.
Jake is also doing a lot of work in these fights. 13 out of 17 kill participation. We're still waiting for the God tier Glacial Prison, but has been doing a lot of damage with the health stack, and of course with the
Guantanamo.
The Cinder Hulk item providing a lot of bonus health, you'd have to think, at this point in the game. Already providing him 434 health, more than a giant spell.
That's ridiculous.
Coming through from the Cinder Hulk. Health scaling on the W, which at this point is doing a lazy 700 damage. you still have to respect the incidental magic damage coming through from Jakey.
Yeah, well, precisely. And he's going to have that Thornmail completed very soon and be a 6-item Sejuani. Of course, you know, one of them's a Ruby Sightstone and the other one's a jungle item. So pretty cheap 6-item build, but 6 items nonetheless.
Okay, but we do see Immunity has position on Avant. They're trying to close, but Immunity has the position in the mid lane. Risky to walk through this choke, and Maz is bound.
Oh, he gets caught by the binding, and the inner turret does fall down, but AV, they want this fight as the Assault and Battery comes into Missouri on the backside, but he flashes over it, and Ryu trying to be in this front line. Beautiful 4-man stun to come down, but Uberbro picks up bad game lol here at the back of it, and Ryu, he gets killed, but if the Scion takes that much damage, nothing's going well for you, Avant, as the play to come down, but Cheese doesn't care because he can just Rift Walk all the time.
He can. Almost dies on the backside. 6-item Cassin's doing a lot of damage, but it's fairly brittle. A damage-focused build, and the fight's on.
Oh, Uberbro looking for it. He turns around and picks it up. Zahi gets the credit for it as Jakey now has to run. And this 4-item Sivir doing so much work. Immunity, they get reminded that they can just take down the base.
They do. They're going to take the inhibitor. A very long fight. That's the result of the Cinder Hulk. That's the result of the tanky picks coming through. But the reinitiation damage coming through from Uberbro and Cheese was massive. They take down the inhibitor. This game is still on. It's risky, but it looks like they're going to try and pick up the Baron and Avant. They know about it.
Yeah, and man, T-Gun has had such a performance this game. 2-1 and 22. 24 out of 28. That is absolutely insane kill participation. They are
look at the minion. I'm sorry to cut you, but look at the minions. The Baron, they want to contest it to buy time for these minions to push. Baron's getting very low.
Yeah, Jakey is a difficult prospect if they want to take this one down. Of course, Immunity with not very much health, but you can see that you're exactly right. These minion waves are tearing the base apart. Already taken a turret there on the bottom side. And Avant, they're going to be happy with the consolation, but Baron and an inhibitor falls. And let's have a look at this again.
So let's watch the replay. Very tanky members, what you have to remember. The Assault and Battery is used to stop him from taking the Lantern, is able to take the Lantern, but watch Bad Game Low on the front. He's trying to be a tank just like Sion, but he's focused down and dies. In this case, the ultimate from Sejuani doesn't do any work because it's just a short cooldown that buys no time for his team to do damage. And Maz, the lacking Last Whisper is the big factor here. They take down Sion first, which already is a massive issue, and they just don't have the damage to pierce him down in the time it took for the Jax to fall. So the Corki Last Whisper may start to answer the tank dive battles, but for now, Sion is definitely fulfilling his role better than Bad Game Long.
Yeah, and he now has his Guardian Angel back up here as well with a Thornmail. That's a 6-item Sion. And that is so frightening. Does have that Warmogs available. Mercurial Scimitars being finished off by Uberbro. Cheese has been just buying elixirs over and over again. He's been 6 items forever. As Immunity now thinking about where they're going to push with this Baron buff. They have adjusted that bottom wave. You can see that is neutralized yet again. And looks like the top side of the map is going to be where Immunity focus their efforts. And
Immunity have a lot of teamfight initiation options with double Zonias now. Of course, Morgana has a Zonias as well. Can initiate in her own right. As you mentioned, the Sion ultimate, the Unstoppable Onslaught, has Guardian Angel. Happy to dive the back. And this is where Maz finally has the Last Whisper. But you wonder, with the Thornmail especially coming through, is it too little, too late?
Yeah, that is the thing. Is Ryu actually going to get engaged on here? T-Gun gets death sentenced. Oh, finds a Dark Binding here as well, but you can see what's going on is this inner turret is falling, and there's 2 siege minions that are Baroned up, unable to be hit by the tower, and Ryu, he's able to be hit by the tower. That Soul Furnace wasn't even broken with like 4 auto attacks from the turret.
Look, he's a very, very tanky man. Still doing a lot of disruption in the front. Death sentence. Sorry, the Dark Binding hits onto Jakey. You feel like at some point, even though they're under turret, Immunity are going to press the go button.
Yeah, Cheese actually almost doing that very early on. Does have the Zonias available, of course. Can be a little bit more aggressive, but he loses a whole chunk of his health bar. He's going to have to be a little bit more careful because, of course, doesn't have a lot of sustain coming through from the Immunity lineup.
And that's actually quite significant because it causes Immunity to back off, despite the fact they had a super minion wave pushing into the mid lane with that inhibitor down. They cannot continue to push the top lane. They're going to go and pick up the 4th dragon. It won't be uncontested, but it should be successful from Immunity.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage here as well. Jakey, they've got vision, but they just watch the pushing power go into the hands of Immunity, and that's something that Avant definitely doesn't want. They don't want Immunity pushing even more because already, I mean, the inhibitor's down and they're under a lot of pressure, and This is over 1,000 gold. We're talking about 12,000 gold in the lead now for Immunity in a game that was so incredibly close, not moments before.
And it's over 50 minutes as well. Atlas, 6-item builds across the board. Look at this, Jax. Trinity Force, Blade of the Ruin King for damage. Then he's got the Frozen Heart, Warmog's Guardian Angel. This Jax is very, very strong. It's just a question of whether he needs to fight around his carries or he needs to keep diving. They need to get a massive Glacial Prison and explode Ubro. And with him already having the Mikhails, and sorry, not the Mikhails, but the Mercurial Scimitar, it could be difficult. If Bad Game Law is successfully kited, and with the Sivir move speed and all the move speed available on Immunity's side, I do like the chance of that happening. Immunity might take a late game team fight. Both these teams seem confident about their late game.
Yeah.
This is the late game. 51 minutes in, no other way to put it. It's absolutely the late game. And with 5 minutes till the next Dragon coming through, potentially the 5th for Immunity, this game is on a timer for Avant.
Yeah, and I mean, you just saw the numbers popping up there. Uberbro is now critting for 1,300 damage.
Onto a minion.
Onto a minion, true, but that's still a really big number, Papa Smithy. I'm just trying to outline that he's doing a lot of damages. That is happening as Jakey actually gets his Banshee Veil popped just there. Of course, a little bit late as Missouri gets caught by a Dark Binder. You can't be doing that in these fights as Ryu just trying to be a front line for his team, but not wanting to commit to any tanking just yet. The inhibitor's going to respawn.
He takes another big burst, though. Has to back away. Does he have the home guards? He does. That shouldn't be a massive condition, but it looks like Immunity going to rotate mid. Will Avant try and make a last stand around this inhibitor?
Ooh, that Null Sphere actually doing a whole lot of damage to Missouri. There's a flash into the Bolt Breaker. Assault and Battery takes him for a ride as Missouri forced to use the flash cheese. Zhonya's is in the backside, but you can see the Glacial Prison coming through Immunity. They're very healthy in this fight, though, and Avant, they're starting to melt. Zahi's the first one to go down, though, as Bad Game Low. He's going to follow. The Guardian Angel will keep him alive for a little bit longer as Jakey is now the focus from Immunity. Uberbro just critting for days as the inhibitor's now going to be the focus. It is just a 1-for-1, but Immunity, they take down the structure.
And this game has become a battle of the front line between these 280 carries who can struggle to take down tanky members, and unfortunately Bad Game Law just doesn't have the tools to succeed like Ryu does. Ryu at that point soaked a lot of damage but still had over half of his health. Now, of course, at 4/5, of course, has a lot of regen coming through from the Warmogs. He's going to always be a better damage shot. And that's why we've seen so many Sion bans in the OPL, is that no one compares to Sion as a damage soak, and he has enough disruption, enough CC in fights to not be ignorable. So Sion's doing his role better. And despite having all those Jax items, theoretically being very, very strong, Jax just isn't getting much done in these fights.
He's sort of not able to, just because the peel coming down from especially T-Gun has been so effective onto Uberbro. And despite him being so short range, I mean, the Soul Shackles does have a slow wall. You have the tether active, and he's been on point with his Dark Bindings.
It's just such a close game. There's still no clear window. 1,300 gold is the advantage for Immunity, but at 53 minutes, it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe it's reflected in the supports the most. We compare the gold. In fact, 4,000 gold advantage for T-Gun. That's a lot of the gold lead just in T-Gun. It's got him a luxury Zhonya's.
Yeah, Porky might have got caught out, uses both of his stasis abilities, but gets knocked up immediately in Cheese. He's going to get the kill, and that might be the pick that seals the game for Immunity. There's the On the Hunt actually popped here, of course, so a lot of movement speed. Talisman of Ascension still available if they need some more.
So they have a lot of options. 75 seconds was the death timer coming through from Porky. Now it's going to be still 58 seconds. They can take the Baron, going to respawn in 5 seconds. Avant may look to contest, of course, level 18 to level 18 of the junglers. Could be a straight smite war. Dragon going to come up in minute 45. Avant, this might be a suicide contest.
It's going to be very, very frightening for Avant Garde because, of course, 4v5 at this stage of the game means so much more Immunity. They actually turn off the Baron here as well. There's the Assault Battery into the backline onto Missouri. They need him alive to Avant because, of course, they don't have Porky for a whole lot of that peel, but Bad Game Lol just dies. Jakey's gonna follow. They're just going through, getting rid of that front line, and Mizzui's gonna die at the same time because Cheese, he is just gigantic. Double kill now. 14, 2, and 12. The ace completed by the mid laner of Immunity, and this Kassadin is rolling these fights.
And the 3 words no one wanted to hear, Kassadin is back, Atlas.
Oh my goodness. I certainly didn't want to hear it, but it's most definitely true as Cheese looking to find Porky at the same time. Does have his ult? No, he doesn't have his life, and that's probably the most important part as the ace is completed again, and Immunity once again splitting 1-1.
And Team Immunity always keep up the 1-1s, but crucially lost the easiest game of their run-in, the game against last-placed Fornot, the game they were by far the favorite in. Now they have a very uncertain fate. It's all up to Avant. 3 games left for Avant, 1 more today, 2 more next week against Sudden Fear and Rich Gang. They have their own destiny, and Immunity can only hope that some of these lower-placed teams take away a game because they don't have anything they can do to impact that result. As we do jump to a replay.
Yeah, got a replay for you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see exactly how IM managed to take this one down.
So this is actually a little bit earlier. We saw a lot of fights around this same cove, so I actually had to check the timer to work out when we were watching it. So we'll roll the tape. Avant didn't have position. This is the fight where they were forced into be corralled through this particular choke. Of course, we saw that the Assault and Battery came through to try and stop Maz taking the Dark Passage, but you see in the back, he doesn't have the Last Whisper, and that's the critical fact, is that Ryu soaks a lot of damage, a lot of Maz's auto attack, and in fact, all the AoE damage from Corki was being blocked by the Scion, so the amount of damage discrepancy between Uberbro and Corki was so important in this fight. This is when they finally broke the base at 46 minutes, or at least got it very, very low, and there was just nothing Avant could do, because the re-engage comes through. Kassadin, still pretty good champion. They will eventually break the base. And Immunity, that was the big fight for them. They finally broke the base. They were struggling to. They had a melee mid, a melee top, and only a Sivir 500 range AD carry to take the base. That's why it took 46 minutes for them to finally break the base. And from there, they managed to roll through with that Kassadin. He's back.
Yeah, the old Kassadin back again. And she's made it look easy. But ladies and gentlemen, there is still 2 more games coming up in the OPL tonight. After this, we're going to have Fornot taking on the Chiefs, and we'll see whether Fornot can break the Chiefs' winning spree and keep their hopes alive.